Linis na yung deficit, di ba, Secretary Recto? Singilin mo na si
Yun.
BBM ng estate tax natin. Please continue,
dapat, ma'am.
Dr. Ana.
Oo, ma'am, dapat talaga singilin at dapat talaga, ma'am, ma-resolve yung mga corruption na nangyayari sa Pilipinas kasi yan ang isa din sa mga issues. Ma'am, kasi another impact, ma'am, magsisegue tayo sa geopolitics in a matter of time. This is the economic side. Tapos, ma'am, just to continue, maritime trade pressure, magkakaroon din yan kasi maritime, ang Pilipinas is a maritime country.
Nagsimula na nga ho ang countdown para dito kay BP Sara mga kapdita kung saan 10 araw. Yan na lamang ho ang kanyang natitirang oras o formal para sagutin ang, alam nyo na mga kapdita, ang reklamong impeachment na inihahain laban ho sa kanya dito sa House of the Representatives. Ngayong araw mga kapdita, opisyal na hong pinadalhan ng House Committee on Justice si BP Sara ng kopya ng mga reklamo ayon nga sa rules ng impeachment mga kapatid. Kailangan niya ho magsumite ng kanyang verified answer sa loob ng 10 araw. Anong nga ho ba ang mga reklamo kay BP Sara? Unang-una ho sa lahat mga kapatid, ang confidential funds, ang paggastos daw ho niya sa 125 million sa loob ng 11 days. Isa pa ho ang betrayal of public trust, alleged misuse ng pondo sa DepEd ng OBP. Yan ho yung pangalawa. Yung isa naman ho mga kaptita, yung culpable violation of the Constitution. Bakit dito kay BP Sara mga kaptita? Tanong ko lang ho, ang bilis ho ng aksyon nito mga House of the Representatives, yung mga kongresista dyan sa mababang kapulungan. Bakit nung pagdating kay Marcos Jr., sobrang dami ho nilang ebidensya, sobrang dami ho lahat, mga kapatid, resibo ko, lahat-lahat, pati nga itong impeachment complete na inihahain nila kung Mike Defensor, hindi ho pinansin. Yung mga inihain ho nila, Manong Chavit, hindi ho pinansin. Kasi nga ho, mga kapatid, yun yung mga totoong may lakas ng loob na labanan ang gobyernong sindikato. Pero pagdating dyan sa mga small time na kongresista, mga kapatid, agad ho nilang aprobado. Tapos ngayon, sa impeachment na inihahain kay BP Sara, mga kapatid, automatic ho, aprobado. Aprobado ho. Pagdating kay Marcos Jr., wala ho. Wala ho mga ka-update. Sanay naman ho tayo sa nakikita natin kay BP Sara, mga ka-update, na isa hong, alam nyo na, yung pagiging Duterte ho kasi niya, mga ka-update, nakita ho natin sa ating former president na matapang. Hindi ho umaatras lalo na dyan sa mga sagutan. Pero sa loob ho ng Court of Public Opinion at sa legal na aspeto ng Kamara, mga kapatid, kung hindi ho kasi siya sasagot sa loob ng 10 araw, mga kapatid, ituturin ho ng komite na waive na ang kanyang karapatang magpaliwanag at uusad na ho ang kanyang kaso base lamang ho sa mga ebidensya ng mga nagrereklamo. Isa pa mga kapatid, ang labanan ho dito dyan yung numero ng pagboto dyan sa, alam niyo na, House of the Representatives. Alam naman natin na ang impeachment ho ni BP Sara ay numbers game. Kahit na ho maraming at milyon-milyong Pilipino ang may ayaw sa impeachment, mga kapatid, kung mga, alam niyo na, yung mga kung congressman naman na tumatanggap ng mali-maleta, naaayon o kontra kay BP Sara, nasa dihadong posisyon pa rin ho si Vice President. Bakit ho natin nasabing nasa dihado? Kasi mga kapatid, tulad na lamang ho kahapon, nagkabutuhan ho dyan ng 54-1. Ito nga hong si Rodriguez, yan ho yung nakaka-disappoint dyan. Ang dami niya hong sinabi na ganyan. Tapos bandang huli mga kapatid, boboto pala siya ng yes. Milyon-milyong Pilipino rin ho yung nakasaksi sa pagboto ng yes ni Rodriguez o si Rupus, mga kapatid, na alam naman ho natin, marami ho na-disappoint sa kanya. Naakala naman ho natin, mga kapatid, magboboto siya ng no. Kaya mga kapatid, hindi lang itong si BP Sara o yung impeachment ang kanyang ang ating pag-uusapan. Pati na rin ho itong si Prof. Ana Malindog, mga kapatid, pati ho itong si Attorney Rowena Guanzon, atin hong tatalakayin patungkol nga dyan sa matinding korupsyon na nangyayari dito sa ating bansa. Ito mga sinabi na nga ni Attorney Guanzon, mga update, na itong si Batman, singilin niya ng 210 billion state taxes si Bobong Marcos Jr. Para naman mga kapatid, mabawas-bawasan ho ang utang ng Pilipinas. Lalo na ngayon, pumalo na ho sa 16 trillion kung hindi ho tayo nagkakamali. Kaya mga kapatid, kung bago lang ho kayo sa ating channel, isang like, isang share, sa subscribe lamang ho, malaking tulong na yan. Direkta na ho tayo. Pero bago ho yan, pasadahan na muna ho natin itong si Manong Ted, ito nga si Luis Trong Chongo, mga kapatid, at sila Attorney Rowena Guanzon. Kaya mga kapatid, wala na ho tayong paligoy-ligoy pa.
Impeachment na na-allege doon sa impeachment complaint.
No?
Opo. So kaya na po tayo tutunghay ngayon after ito hong kaninyong step na ito para po sa sagot, kontrasagot at rejoinder na inaasahan natin kung magkakaroon na po ng formal na pagdinig. Doon ba sa formal na pagdinig po, Madam Chair, meron bang subpoena powers doon ang komite?
Actually, Madam Ted, I'm inclined to believe that as early as now, the Justice Committee can exercise already its power of compulsory process, no? Alam mo to, alam ko nag-aral ka din ng batas eh. This includes subpoena duces tecum if you want to compel the production of documents, and subpoena ad testificandum if you want to compel the attendance of witness before the Justice Committee. So my answer to that, yes, meron na, but I think it's not only during the hearing proper. As early as now, meron ng compulsory process ang Justice Committee.
Opo. Ma'am, is that your opinion o kinakailangan, yan bang inyong sinasabi ngayon na yan ay inyong opinion at yan ba'y kinakailangan pa munang pagbotohan ng majority members of the committee or magkaroon muna kayo ng deliberasyon before nyo yan gawin? Yan ba'y nasusulat sa inyong rules, ma'am?
The reason why I am saying this is because we have to understand that Justice Committee is a collegial body. As such, the only way to decide is by way of the majority vote. So, in significant occasions and decisions to be done, I make it as a practice that we do it by way of collegial body. No?
Opo.
So, to your question, ito bang exercise ng compulsory process dapat idaan sa botohan? I think yes, because this is a collegial body and I cannot decide alone.
Opo, and we sincerely appreciate, ma'am, with the way you handled itong nagdaan ng mga hearing, para po sa pagbibigay ng chance sa lahat ng mga miyembro na magsabi ng kanilang kaisipan at saloobin. So dito hong binabanggit nyo na puder ng komite na magsubpina ng mga tao, mga dokumento, hindi yan nasusulat talaga sa inyong impeachment rules po, ma'am?
Well, actually, hindi siya ganon kadetalyado, no? But the reason why I am aligned to maintain that position is because of the fact that this is not the decision of the chair only, this is not the decision of one member only, which is being considered in the Justice Committee. Here, it is always the rule of the majority.
Okay. And kayo ho ba, ma'am, as committee chairman ay pwedeng bumoto?
No. And nakadalawang botohan na kami, 4 na pala because originally we had 6 actually. 6 na beses lang bumoto because during the determination of sufficiency in form, 4 pa sila. 'Di ba?
Opo.
Sa determination of sufficiency in substance, 2 na lang sila. So total of 6 voting already. Hindi pa po ako nagkaroon ng chance na bumoto because I know for a fact I am not allowed to vote except in cases of tie.
Ayun, opo, klaro yan. So, ma'am, dito po sa usapin po ng mga, hindi sa pinangungunahan po namin ano po ang mangyayari, pero doon po sa mga aligasyon tungkol po sa mga SAL-N issues na ito. Doon po sa mga aligasyon po ng umano ay hindi maipaliwanag na yaman. Diyan ho, ma'am, talaga, pwede na pong umiral ang poder ho ng komite para mismo mga bank records na ito vis-a-vis the bank secrecy law, gagaya po sa impeachment court, pwede na pong manaig ang poder ng komite ho dito sa pagsusupina ng mga ganon?
I believe yes, Madam Ted, no? Kasi if we will look into the provisions of the bank secrecy law and other related laws, ang sinasabi dyan, the exception to the protection that is provided by the bank secrecy law is during impeachment cases or impeachment proceedings. The law is silent whether it refers to the Justice Committee or to the Senate trial. And we should be reminded by our principle in statutory construction. When the law does not provide, we should not provide. When the law does not distinguish, we should not distinguish. And by impeachment proceeding, by impeachment case, that includes the proceeding that is happening before the House of Representatives through the Justice Committee.
Opo, opo. And in case po na naman, ito'y questionin po ng panig po ni VP Sara, yan po ay kanilang karapatan na naman kung sakasakali
Yes,
po.
definitely. As a matter of fact, they can go to the Supreme Court at any stage of the proceeding at karapatan nila yan. We cannot do anything about that. But we are hopeful and positive that with the degree of caution that we are exercising today, including all the justice members, I hope that the Supreme Court this time will uphold the impeachment proceedings.
Okay. Ma'am, yung pong mga testimonya ng mga testigo po dito, no? Yung pong usapin ng kanilang seguridad. Kasi po malaking bagay yan, no? Yung lakas na loob ng mga testigo po dito kung sakasakali. Ang komite ho ba may poder din tungkol po sa pagbibigay sa kanila ng seguridad dito?
I think yes, Ted. As a matter of fact, we've done that before during the Quadcom investigations and even, I think, during the good government inquiry also, no? Na if there is a motion coming from the complainant at na-substantiate nila yung threat or danger which is posed to the life of the possible witness or the witness in this impeachment complaint, we will be acting on that motion in a way that we will be bringing to the custody of the witness. Like, for example, in the case of Ramil Madriaga, from the BJMP to the HREP, but that is, of course, with the consent of the concerned agency, which is the BJMP.
Opo, opo. And again, ano po, subject to the approval nga po sa mayorya ng mga miyembro ng komite. So kapag ho pinag-usapan natin dito ang testigo, pati po mga dokumento, pati po yung mga dokumento na actual na sinumite ng Office of the Vice President o maging sa tanggapan po ng DepEd doon sa mga pinaggastusan ng confidential fund at yung mga kontrata doon sa mga safe houses. Doon po sa mga pangalan, sa mga voucher na tumanggap po ng pera ng gobyerno, yun po, maisusubpi na po nyo yan at sa usapin po ng paglalantad sa publiko kasi po ito'y public hearing, paano kaya yon?
Yes, we can issue subpoena duces tecum in as far as the COA documents are concerned, no? And for purposes of authentication, we can subpoena as well. Whoever is the custodian of this COA documents, for them to identify before the Justice Committee that they are genuine documents of the Commissioner Audit.
Paano po ninyo, ma'am, ito ho bang hearing na ito ay talagang all the way magiging publiko, meaning live stream po ito? Sa usapin po noong halimbawa dumating ang pagkakataon, ito ho na naman theoretical ano po, na yung piatos, no? Sino ba siya? Oo, yung dokumento ng ito. And then yung sinasabi na pag sinupin niyo yung tao na nag-submit nito, yung mga pagpapapirma sa mga voucher na ito, paano kaya, will that be made public, ma'am?
Yes, definitely, Manong Ted, no? The entire proceeding will be publicly available. I mean, it will be watched. It can be watched by the public, no? Sapagkat this is a public hearing and the public has the right to know whatever is happening in the Justice Committee. And as far as our impeachment proceeding is concerned. So yes, kung masasaksihan ba ng mga Pilipino itong pagharap ng mga testigong ito, definitely they will.
Opo. Yung paglalantad po ng mga bank statement din, ma'am, yan po ay maisa sa publiko kung sakasakali po.
Most especially the presentation of these bank documents sapagkat these are very delicate matter, no? And it is really our intention to share that to all the Filipino people kung ano man ang makikita nating ebidensya. Sabay-sabay po nating makikita kung ano mang ebidensya ang i-offer sa atin ng mga complainants.
Okay. So, kumbaga po, ma'am, dito po sa stage na ito nga po kasi nga eventually ay ang magiging laman ng inyong committee report. Doon po, ma'am, hindi lang po probable cause ang quantum of evidence doon lalabas kung sakasakali po.
In which stage, Manong Ted?
Ito hong stage na po ng paglalantad ng lahat ng mga sinasabing ebidensya na ihaharap.
Okay.
Opo, go ahead, ma'am.
We cannot actually say na hindi na ito probable cause because let us remember that the respondent has the right to counter the evidence to be presented by the complainant. So
Okay.
we do not know if after we have seen the counter evidence of the respondent, the evidence will actually be more than or
Okay.
just enough for probable cause. We do not know yet. It
Opo.
will depend on the progress of the hearing.
Yes, oo nga, oo nga naman, ano po. Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am, yung pong inyong calendar, meron kayong break ngayon pong Semana Santa. It's happening on March 20. Ang balik po ninyo ay May 4 na. And then,
That's correct.
Apo, and then hanggang June 5 po iyan. Opo,
Yes.
opo. And then, pagbalik nga po ninyo, ito na po ata yung SONA ni Presidente Marcos. Kapag ho nagkaroon kayo ng hearing na actual na, dito po sa mga pinag-usapan natin, bank statement, etc. Yan, ma'am, gaano kalaking oras ang ibibigay ng Kongreso dyan, ng komite? Yan ba'y araw-araw, Lunes hanggang Biyernes? Paano ho kaya yan? Kasi nga, kung alam niyo ho yun, kapag sinimulan po yung ating pag-usisa at panonood dito, yung pong usapin po ng kumbaga, walang break. Oo, tuloy-tuloy. Paano po?
Well, Madam Ted, ganito, because of the high significance, the importance, at most importance of this impeachment proceeding, I am really inclined to hear the impeachment case as fast as we can without compromising due process and without compromising the substance of the evidence. No? So, yes, I understand. Beginning on March 18, naka-recess na kami and we will be resuming on May 4. But at this point in time, I am inclined to continue with the hearing even during recess. I know this is outside already the definition of session day as per resolution of the Supreme Court dated January 28, no? But considering that the intention is to expedite so as to satisfy the waiting Filipino people about the result of this impeachment, no? I think we will be upheld by the Supreme Court on that point. So, we intend to hold hearings on April, May, and perhaps June, 2 to 3 months, no? I went over the grounds, notwithstanding the fact na dalawa ang complaint. They can be summarized actually into 6 grounds. That includes the threat, the confidential fund in OVP, confidential fund in DepEd, the bribery or the payola in DepEd, and then we also have the the SALN in relation to the affidavit of Ramil Madriaga, and 6 is the stabilization plot, which is, to me, is a totality. The way it was drafted in the complaint. This pertains to the totality of all the actions committed by the Vice President, allegedly.
Okay. So, ma'am, after Holy Week, kahit na po naka-break kayo, pwede kayo magpatawag, pero yan ho bang schedule na iyan ay dapat nyo na munang ma-resolve sa Committee on Justice before kayo mag-break ngayon para on record na pinagbotohan nyo yan?
No, it will be done by way of a meeting only. So long as the justice, of course, I cannot proceed without the quorum, no? So ang importante lang ay merong conformity, not necessarily a vote, ang mga members with regards to their availability on the dates that I will be proposing for the hearing.
Okay. Ilan ho ba ang actual na miyembro po, voting members ng Committee on Justice?
What I remember, Manong Ted, is I'm the 40th. That is the regular members, no? But I'm not allowed to vote. So the members that are allowed to vote are only 39. Okay? So, but if you're asking about total members, we are 40. That's what I understand. Paapat na po ako. And then, let us remember that the ex-officio members, they are 15, I believe, have the right to participate and vote. Not only in Justice Committee, but in all committees.
Okay.
That explains kung bakit ang boto kahapon is
54.
54-1. No?
Okay, opo.
Ang mga ex-officio members, if they have no opportunity to participate, they're actually allowed to deputize non-member and non-ex-officio members. That is why, pag tinignan mo yung mga present kahapon during the voting, may makikita kang hindi member ng Justice Committee, hindi rin ex-officio member, but they are equipped with the necessary deputization letter from an ex-officio member.
Okay.
Pag sinabi natin Manong Ted na ex-officio member, we are referring to the House leaders from the House Speaker down to the majority leaders, the DML, Deputy
Opo.
Majority Leaders.
Okay. So, ma'am, doon po sa regular na mga miyembro, doon ka lang mahahango ng iyong quorum.
No, the ex-officio members are allowed to attend and allowed to vote. And for the purposes of determining the quorum and even determining the majority and determining the number of votes, kasama sila sa bilang.
So, let's simplify it. So, paano yan, ma'am? Kung during divcation po ninyo, paano yan? Ilan ang quorum mo, kumbaga? Ilan po ang iyong quorum?
Well, as regular members, yun na kaagad ang aming initial consideration that we are 39, no?
Oo.
Pero kung dadating sila, let us say for example, may dadating na 11 na ex-officio. So that makes the Justice Committee participants a total of 50. Kung dadating silang lahat, that will be 1/2 + 1. That is 26. That is our quorum. No. I'm sorry. The quorum is only 1/5 under the rules.
1/5 lang.
Yes, 1/5 only.
Okay. So,
That's under the rules of impeachment, no?
1/5 lang, ma'am. So,
Yes.
ilan lang ang kailangan mong warm bodies kung sakasakali para para walang question sa quorum?
So if it will be, let us say, 40 na lang, or 39, or 50, yung 50 example natin kanina.
Oo.
For purposes of quorum, 1/5 is 10, right?
Okay.
10.
Okay.
Tapos if we will be voting, for example, on sufficiency in form and substance, ang sabi sa rules, majority of the present members so long as there is a quorum. So kung 10 yan, for purposes of determination of form and substance, 6 will be enough because that
Okay.
is the majority of 10 and there is a
Okay.
quorum.
Alright, sige po. So, napaka-importante itong mga...
Just to distinguish this, Manong Ted,
Okay.
let us make a distinction between simple majority and majority of all members. No?
Okay, go ahead.
For the purpose of determination of form, substance, sufficient ground of impeachment, ito simple majority lang. Majority of the present members so long as there is a quorum. Okay? Pero pagdating natin ng probable cause, iba ito. This will be majority of all the members. Ibig sabihin, kahit hindi ka mag-attend, kasama ka sa computation ng majority of all to be able to meet the required number of votes for the purpose of probable cause.
Okay, sige po. So ma'am, kapag po humantong na sa ending nito, no, gagawa kayo ng committee report at inyong ihahain sa plenaryo. Yung committee report na yan, yung approval niyan, ano po approval? Meaning kung ano ho ang inyong rekomendasyon, ilan signatures ang kailangan mo doon para po ito maipanik sa plenaryo for the approval na po of the plenary?
For purposes of probable cause and approval of committee report, pareha sila na required vote. That is majority of all members.
Okay. Opo. Majority. And then pagdating po sa plenaryo, you are going to defend the committee report at yung committee
That's correct.
Opo. And the committee report will be subject to all manifestations and kung ano man pong mga komento. Afterwards, pagbobotohan po ito, whether bubuo na kayo ng articles of impeachment.
That is correct, Manong Ted, no?
Okay.
And that committee report is subject to 1/3 vote of all the members of the House of Representatives.
Which is 105 or 106?
My last check, we are 315, so that should be 105 to constitute 1/3.
Okay, sige po. So ma'am, lalabas po ma'am ngayon pala na ito pong ating masasaksihan in the days to come after nitong 10-3-3 na binabanggit yung days, no? Ay parang trial na rin, kumbaga. I mean, parang na siyang trial.
Yes, Ted, but siguro mini trial to.
Okay.
It will not be as full blown as the Senate, because remember, the quantum of evidence that is being required of us is merely probable cause, no? And I am anticipating also the possibility that kapag na-satisfy na yung mga prior ground, there might be a member who will be moving to conclude the proceedings because we have reached already the quantum of evidence required. So that's just a possibility, but it will depend really on the progress of the hearing proper.
Okay. Kumbaga, to abbreviate the proceedings, Madam Chair, hindi nyo na tatapusin po ito kasi nga meron ka na ngang basihan, no?
Yes, but in that case, it will be subjected to the vote of the majority of the members present.
Okay, sige po. So ma'am, how do you manage all of this now? Kasi nakaatang sa inyong balikat itong napaka-importanting bagay na ito sa gitna po ng lahat. As you all know, pag sinabi kong lahat, lahat na po yan. Bira dito, bira doon, o naman po, pressure dito, pressure doon. How do you manage this all?
Ako, Manong Ted, I don't watch social media. I stick to the rules. I am a conservative lawyer. Ayoko nang nag-explore ako outside what is provided under the rules. So I think that's how I manage it. Stick to the rules of impeachment of the House. Stick to the decisions of the Supreme Court. Stick to our Constitution. And try to be discreet in choosing the programs that I will be watching. I purposely watch legal luminaries to provide additional guidance as we go along this impeachment proceeding.
Okay, with that, Madam Chair, Godspeed, and we will be watching. Ano po, at kung sakasakali pong may mga dapat kayong liwanagin, I hope you don't mind na kami po yung muli pong gagambala sa inyo.
Definitely. Maraming salamat po, Manong Ted.
Opo.
DJ Chacha.
Thank
Maraming
you.
salamat. Morning, DJ Chacha. And of course, kay Manong Ted.
Good morning.
Morning, and
po.
of course to all the viewers and followers of our program today.
Good morning po, Congresswoman. Salamat po sa panahon. Congresswoman, ito nga po, ngayong idineklara na sufficient in form and sufficient in substance, ito pong dalawang impeachment complaints na nakahain po dyan sa Kamara. Ano na pong susunod na proseso?
DJ, no, before we ended our hearing kahapon, before we adjourned, the Justice Committee already issued the notice to the Vice President. That is for her to file her answer within the period of non-extendable 10 days, calendar days, no?
Grabe, mantagin po ninyo pagdating sa ating Vice Presidente mga ka-update. Pag-i-explain ho nila sa loob lamang ho dapat ng 10 araw. Bakit nung kay Bongbong Marcos mga ka-update, matinding sarswelin nandyan, ni minsan wala rin nangyari. Wala rin ho nangyari. Bakit pagdating dito ho kay BP Sara mga ka-update, yung mga nandyan sa mababang kapulungan, ang bibilis hong umaksyon. Bakit ho? Dahil ba nabigyan na ho sila ng mali-maleta? Tanong ko lang yan, Luis Tro. Bakit? Dahil nabigyan na kayo ng, alam nyo na, di ba? Mabilis yung aksyon nito ng mga tolongges na ito, mga kabit. Pagdating ho dyan kay BP Sara, bakit pagdating kay Marcos Jr., wala ho nangyayari, di ba?
Itong sagot ng ating Vice Presidente, aside from they need to be filed to the Justice Committee, copy of which needs to be furnished as well to the complainant. And in that case, from receipt by the complainant of the copy of the answer, they are given a period of 3 calendar days within which to file their reply, no? Dapat i-furnish din nila ang Vice President. And in that case, the Vice President naman, from receipt of that reply, is given as well a period of 3 calendar days to file her rejoinder. Ang tawag natin dito, DJ, responsive pleading. Reason is nagsasagutan sila. From complaint, may answer si VP. From answer, mayroong reply si complainant. And from reply, may rejoinder si VP. No? Ang tawag ko dito, DJ, is step 3. And as a matter of fact, dito sa step 3, dito na rin sinasubmit yung evidence ng both parties, complainant and respondent. And if they have affidavits and counter-affidavits, they need to be sworn in as well before the Justice Committee.
Oo.
When all of these are complete, the Justice Committee under step 3 needs to determine whether or not there's sufficient ground that supports the impeachment complaint. If the answer is in the affirmative, if that is a decision of the Justice members' majority, we go to step 4. Step 4 is the hearing proper. Dito natin tatawagan ang complainant, ang witness, and even the respondent. Maraming nagtatanong, DJ, what if the respondent doesn't show up? What if the Vice President doesn't appear before the Justice Committee? Let us remember that her appearance in the hearing is part of her right to due process. In other words, she has the prerogative. She has the option. She has the choice whether to come or not to come. No? If she doesn't come, it will be interpreted merely as a waiver of her right to be present during the hearing. Pag natapos na lahat ng parties dito sa hearing proper, we go to step 5. In step 5, the Justice Committee will vote on whether or not there is probable cause that supports the impeachment complaint. That is why, DJ, ito ang dahilan, Manong Ted, why I compare the proceeding before the Justice Committee to a preliminary investigation in an ordinary judicial proceeding. No? Para kami mga fiskal, nag-PPI, the quantum of evidence required is probable cause, and whatever the decision is of the Justice Committee in step 5, isusulat namin yan sa committee report. And that committee report is subjected to the approval of at least 1/3 of all the members of the House of Representatives. No? Kung makakakuha siya ng at least 1/3 vote, then that is the time that the Articles of Incorporation articles of impeachment will be transmitted to the Senate for trial.
Wow, well explained. Ngayon mas naiintindihan ko na rin po itong proseso nito nga pong impeachment. Ma'am, yung sinasabi niyo po na bibigyan ng 10-day period si VP Sara para nga po makasagot. Kailan po magsisimula yan? Kailan po ba niya matatanggap ito pong notice? Notice po galing sa Kamara. Oo.
Yeah, alam mo kasi sa law school tinuruan kami ng pagbibilang Exclude the first, include the last. I don't know really what's the policy of the House in counting. Kasi I observe parang iba no? Parang pag nilabas mo siya ng March 5, March 15 ang 10th day niya. Something like that. But I will double check that. In law kasi, you exclude the first, you include the last, no? So, it's like, what's this? March 5, so ilalabas mo siya March 5, exclude the first, start ka ng March 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Pares pala. March 15 pa rin yung 10th day niya, no? So, the counting should start on March 6, pero I understand it will be served to the Vice President today, March 5.
So ngayon po isuserve March 15, inaasahan na matatapos yung 10-day grace period ni VP
Yes.
Sara Duterte. Pero para lang din po sa mga nakikinig, kasi dalawa, di ba, yung pinagdaanan, sufficient in form and then sufficient in substance. Na-explain na po last time ni Kong Joel Chua kung ano po yung sufficient in form. Paano naman po tinitignan ng komite kapag sinabi nating sufficient in substance? Kasi sabi niyo po kanina, parang lumalabas, lang kayo preliminary hearing kung ikukumpara po natin para kay mga piskalya. So dito po ba sa sufficient in substance, may mga tinitignan na rin tayong ebidensya?
Well, we are just looking at the face of the impeachment complaint, including the attachments, no? Pero if you will consider the rule, in verbatim, as sabi dyan, there is sufficiency in substance if there is a recital of facts that constitute an offense determinative of the ground of impeachment, no? Ang tinutukoy dong offense is the specific actions of the respondent which are contrary to law. And then ang sinasabing determinative of the jurisdiction of the committee, these specific acts must constitute any, some, or all of the grounds for impeachment. And of course, we have to understand, pag sinabi natin grounds for impeachment, may enumeration dyan ang Constitution. And the enumeration is exclusive in nature. Yun lang. You cannot go beyond. Ano ito? A culpable violation of the Constitution, betrayal of public trust, treason, bribery, graft and corruption, and other high crimes, no? And another important thing here, DJ Chacha, no? Itong offenses or specific acts or allegations.
Ito nga hong malalaking aligasyon nila kay BP Sara, ang dami ho. Isipin nyo, bakit yung kay Marcos Jr., marami din hong resibo, marami din hong ebidensya kay Marcos Jr., pero hindi ho pumasa dyan sa mababang kapulungan. Bakit to, mga kapatid? Kasi nga mga kapatid, sila lang ho ang gumagawa niya. Malaking sarswela lamang ho yun nandiyan. Tingnan nyo yan mga kapatid, yung impeachment kay BP Sara. Panigurado, dyan lang ho yan malakas sa House of the Representatives. Pero pagdating ho dyan, napunta ho yan sa Korte Suprema, sa Senado, mga kapatid, tingin nyo ho ba hindi ho mapabasura yan? Di ba mismong Korte Suprema, mga kapatid, nagsalita na rin ho dyan na unconstitutional ho yung ginagawa ho nilang kabalbalan kay BP Sara. Wala ho, mga kapatid, mababasura at mababasura pa rin ho yan. Yan po yung nakikita na ho natin. Isa pa mga kapatid, total na dyan ho tayo sa House of the Representatives. Ang ikinasasakit ng loob ho natin dyan, naalala niyo ho ba yung pinost natin si Rupus Rodriguez? Nakaka-disappoint lang mga kapatid na ang dami niya hong sinabi na akala ho natin, alam niyo na yung hindi ho siya boboto, magbobote siya na no sa impeachment ni BP Sara. Bakit ho nang nagkabotohan, bigla ho siya nag-yes? Yan ho yung kinasasama ng loob. Maraming Pilipino ho yung nakakita niyan. Itong kay Rodrigo Rupus, mga kapatid, mukhang wala ho tayong pag-asa dyan. Di ba? Isipin nyo, maraming nagsabi na sa ating mga kababayan na nabibigyan na din kaya siya ng maleta. Yan ho yung malaking katanungan. Di ba?
Of facts, dapat makonect mo to dito sa ground for impeachment. Ito yung tinatawag nating factual nexus. You have to establish the ground between the offenses and the ground, no? The impeachable ground. The impeachable offenses with the impeachable ground. Dapat ma-establish yan. Dapat ma-connect mo yan. Otherwise, you cannot say that that is sufficient in substance, no? But indeed, the determination are confined only to what appear in the impeachment complaint and the attachments therein. DJ?
Okay, so tama po ba yung pagkakaintindi ko? At dito, ang tinitignan ay kung karapat bang imbestigahan yung mga allegations muna kay VP Sara. Yun lang po.
Well, ang tinitingnan natin is the sufficiency in substance, kung may sapat bang
Basehan.
offenses.
Dito pa ako sa inyong programa. Maraming salamat po ulit.
At tungkol po ito sa Iran versus Israel and US war, ang ating talakayan ngayon, at anong mga implications nito sa Pilipinas at sa ating mga kababayan. Sa United Arab Emirates, mga kaibigan, ay halos 1,000 Pilipino ang OFW. At ayon sa Bangko Sentral datos ay sa early, o ibig sabihin January to February this year, ay nag-remit sila ng 119 million pesos. At kung i-times 2 mo yan, i-times mo yan sa buong taon, aabot sila ng mga 1 bilyong piso na i-remit sa kanilang mga pamilya itong taon. At yan po ay mahalaga, hindi lamang sa kanilang pamilya, kundi sa pagpalutang ng ekonomiya ng Pilipinas. May mga tanong po tayo para kay Ma'am Ana. So, Ma'am Ana, yung pag-strike ng Iran missiles sa the United Arab Emirates ay nagsara ang airport, lahat-lahat. Ngayon, ano po ang implications nito sa oil reserves ng, for example, ng Pilipinas o ng China? Dahil alam ko po na ang China ay kumukuha ng kanyang oil dun din sa Iran.
Opo, let's contextualize po, Ma'am Bing, ang nangyayari po sa Iran versus Israel-US war na
Go
nangyayari
ahead po.
ngayon.
Go ahead.
Opo, hindi na siya po, it's not necessarily contained between Iran and Israel and the United States. Makikita natin na escalated siya at naging regional conflict na po. But of course, ang mas apektado po is ang mga Gulf states. However, kailangan po natin ang predicate po na itong attack on Iran, as far as international law is concerned, as far as the UN Charter is concerned po, is a violation ng UN Charter and international law. Unprovoked po yan, and false pretense as far as the United States is concerned, kasi po kung titignan natin yung Atomic Agency, UN Atomic Agency, sinasabi niya na wala namang proof na Iran is actually on the verge of producing nuclear weapon. And on the other hand, Pentagon also said na walang sign that Iran will attack the United States, kasi ang sinasabi ng United States kaya nila inattack ang Iran is precisely three things. I-atake daw nila a threat to the United States, which is the mainland. On the other hand po is yung sinasabi na may program daw ng intercontinental ballistic missile ang Iran and nuclear weapon, which is pinabulaan po ito ng mga UN agency. Isa dyan is ang UN agency. So malinaw po that this is an assault to the Iran sovereignty, and at the same time right now kaya tayo nagkaroon ng war because Iran is responding basing it in UN Charter, saying that Iran has a right to self-defense. So as far as Iran is concerned, it's a right to self-defense. Ngayon, maganda ho ang tanong nyo kasi mas kailangan po natin maintindihan ano ang impact nito in the world, sa world economy at lalo na po sa Pilipinas. Kasi one thing that we have to remember po, aside from the fact na ang Pilipinas ay maraming mga OFW, especially sa Gulf states, kasama na dyan po ang Dubai, which is UAE, Bahrain, Oman, Lebanon, Kuwait, even Iraq is now part of the war. Makikita natin na marami tayong OFW. So when you talk about impact in the world economy, first and foremost pong impact dyan is makikita natin na right now po yung Strait of Hormuz ay sinara na ng Iran, and Iran controls that area. So lahat ng tanker na dadaan dyan except for
oil
Chinese
tanker.
tanker. Yeah, oil tanker po, ma'am. Ibig sabihin 20% of the oil trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Pero ngayon, ma'am, nag-announce ang Iran na only Chinese vessels can pass through. Kasi magkaibigan sila, best friends sila.
Alright.
So, ngayon, 20% po ng oil pumapasok dyan. So ngayon, if you look at the world economy, magkakaroon yan, ma'am, ng economic shocks when you talk about oil supply. Not necessarily, ma'am, immediately na, ngayon na, pero in a matter of time, mararamdaman po natin yan. Ngayon, kung tatanungin po natin ang ating bansa, Pilipinas, one thing that we have to remember, ang bansang Pilipinas po is import dependent. Ang problema pa ng Pilipinas, hindi lang siya oil import dependent, but other goods, even rice we import. So when you talk about energy shock, unang tatamaan po yung tinatawag mong oil price hike. Tataas ang presyo ng oil kasi tataas ang merkado sa international, and then it will impact the Philippines, and that's one. Then another one is shipping delay. Magkakaroon kanding delay ng supply, not necessarily in oil, but even other tradable goods. And then yung insurance surges po, kasi may insurance yan. So that one. The second very important aspect when you talk about direct impact on the Philippines is yung tinatawag po nating OFW vulnerability. First, ang problema ng evacuation scenarios. Kanina po, nabasa ko ang pronouncement ni BBM na hindi ko nga maintindihan si BBM, Ma'am Bing, kasi sabi niya 1,000 ang gusto nang bumalik sa Pilipinas. Tapos, next figure is 1,004. Sabi ko, ano ba talaga? Asan ba talaga ang exact figures ng DFA at ng ibang mga ahensya ng gobyerno natin na kung saan dapat alam nila kung anong exact figure. Pero ang sabi pa ni BBM, Ma'am Bing, mahihirapan daw ang Pilipinas i-evacuate. syempre may hirapan kasi hindi nila inayos yan from the very first time.
That's right.
Dapat Ma'am Bing, ano pa lang, Friday pa lang or Saturday pa lang, nagmi-meeting na sila how they gonna evacuate our OFWs from the Middle East. So, evacuation scenario is a big problem right now, lalo na kasi close na lahat, nagbubombahan na. Pangalawa Ma'am, yung sinasabi mong remittances. Anong impact niyan? Magkakaroon po definitely ng remittances disruptions. Kasi kung titignan mo ang Gulf state na around 2 to 4 million Filipinos ang nandun, ngayon 1,400 pa lang daw. May casualties na rin tayo sa Israel. So, ang financial system ng mga countries na to would stop because their buildings are being bombed. And also, yes ma'am, binabomb po lahat ngayon. On the other hand, so ibig sabihin, ang flow of money will to certain extent disrupted. Syempre ma'am, tayo, ang Pilipinas po, to be very honest, ang macroeconomic stability ng Pilipinas, one factor that's very important ma'am, is actually ma'am, the remittances of OFW.
Yes.
Yes. So kung magkakaroon yan ng disruption at sabihin natin ko konti ang remittances, magkakaroon yan ng impact sa economy, especially when you talk about liquidity natin as a country. And on the other hand, a pressure on the peso. Kasi ma'am, when we buy oil and we buy other imported products in the international market, we use US dollar. So ibig sabihin ma'am, for the same amount of good before, mas maraming peso ang kailangan mo kasi mas mahal na ngayon ang presyo. Like for example, oil, ang prediction po ng mga financial analysts is maybe it will reach $100 per barrel to 200 in the immediate.
Wow.
So ma'am,
And right
yes
now,
ma'am.
how much is that? How much is it?
Ma'am, ngayon I think it's around 80 to 60 in the international market. So it's already an increase. At saka mayroon daw fuel increase na already sa ating domestic market, ma'am. Mga 10 pesos na ata ang fuel sa atin, pati yung gasolina. So it's already an increase. Ang problema po sa Pilipinas, ma'am, and even other countries, kapag nag-increase ang fuel, whatever kind of energy-related products, ma'am, mag-i-increase ang food cost, mag-i-increase ang electricity and
Transportation.
other transportation, lahat ma'am, kabit-kabit yan eh.
Yeah.
So yun ang malaking problema. And another thing ma'am na hindi, dapat ma'am, na-anticipate na ni BBM as president is yung labor displacement. Ma'am, kasi kapag tumagal yung war na yan, definitely there would be possibility na mas maraming Filipino OFWs ang i-evacuate, and then pagdating sa Pilipinas,
Walang
you need
trabaho.
walang trabaho ma'am, but the government needs to make some kind of assistance. Ang tanong ma'am, saan kukunin ni BBM ang mga assistance mo when in fact we are deficit when you talk about budget?
Right.
Sabi ni Recto, ang ano natin ma'am, 2026 budget ay kulang pa ng around 26 billion. I'm not
200.
sure ma'am, but
200 billion.
200 billion. So ma'am, saan mo kukunin yun? Kasi pag pinag-uusapan natin dyan, ma'am, pera pa rin. May deficit na nga ang 2026 budget mo.
Di bayaran ni BBM yung 203 billion na estate tax due natin. O di,
Ayun, ma'am.
linis na yung deficit, di ba, Secretary Recto? Singilin mo na si
Yun.
BBM ng estate tax natin. Please continue,
dapat, ma'am.
Dr. Ana.
Oo ma'am, dapat talaga singilin at dapat talaga ma'am ma-resolve yung mga corruption na nangyayari sa Pilipinas kasi yan ang isa din sa mga issues. Ma'am, kasi another impact, ma'am, magsisegue tayo sa geopolitics in a matter of time. This is the economic side. Tapos ma'am, just to continue, maritime trade pressure, magkakaroon din yan kasi maritime ang Pilipinas is a maritime country. And then financial volatility, sabi ko nga, there will be a pressure on peso and then you need more peso to buy goods in the international market because of the prices of goods na tumataas. Ma'am, ang Pilipinas po ay hindi lang import dependent sa dollars. One thing that we have to remember, we import almost everything kasi ang agricultural sector natin, ma'am, hindi ganon ka-effective or efficient or wala kang talagang productivity. Rice we import. Even salt, ma'am, we import. So paano yan? When there is a war, usually, ma'am, in international relation and in geopolitics, ang inuuna ng mga bansa is protektahan ng kanilang country. So ibig sabihin, lilimitahan nila ma'am yung pag-export nila ng goods kasi they need to have self-sufficiency. So that will start also in a matter of time. Kapag itong war sa Middle East is lalo pang mag-escalate at magkaroon ng spillover effect. So that is also another problem ng Pilipinas na dapat ngayon pa lang ma'am, yung ating mga so-called leaders, pinag-uusapan na ito, nagmi nami-meeting na mitigation, ano yung plan na hindi alam ng mga Pilipino kasi busy sila ma'am sa impeachment ni Sara Duterte.
That's
which
correct.
is crazy. Ma'am, crazy talaga ma'am. And then investment climate, this is the one na mag-shift ako ma'am with the issue naman ma'am ng EDCA. Kasi investment, ma'am, based on our data na actually ma'am, nagsulat ako dito, ang investment sa Pilipinas, one of the problem of the Philippine economy at the moment is yung tinatawag natin ma'am na confidence ng investors. This is actually both the foreign investor at saka local investor. So, ngayon, bumaba po ng 5.7% in real terms sa fourth quarter ng 2025 ang investment sa Pilipinas. Kasi nga, walang confidence ang mga foreign and local investors precisely because,
Of corruption.
unang-una, mataas po ang index ng corruption sa Pilipinas and it is known across the world. Akala kasi ni BBM at ng mga officials niya hindi alam ng mundo. Alam po ng mundo kung ano nangyari sa Pilipinas. So that's one thing. Now, in connection to the Iran crisis, Middle East crisis at the moment po, ma'am, kung titignan natin, if you look at geopolitics po, lahat ng ang binobomba din ng Iran is not just Israel. It's bombing also what you call allied countries of the United States. And if you look at the allied countries, ang binobomba nila, US facilities, military bases, at saka any facilities that is connected to Israel and even the United States, especially military. Now, ang sitwasyon na to, the Philippines and Filipino people dapat mag-isip. Kasi bakit po? May EDCA sites.
Okay.
How EDCA sites? Ang EDCA sites po, kahit ano pang sabihin ng National Security Council at ni Gibo at saka ng mga military na EDCA sites are not US military bases, ma'am. It is a US military bases. First and foremost, why? Ma'am, first, rotation of US troops on the ground. It's obvious. Andyan ang BFA mo. Saan ba sila nakastation? Alam ka na naman, ma'am, nagliliwaliw sila sa BGC and Makati. Of course, they are stationed in different EDCA sites. Second is prepositioning of US military equipment, assets, and supplies. And these are not just low level. Ma'am, the United States deployed Typhoon missile system and now they said that they will deploy mid-range missile system. That is not okay. As far as the Philippines is concerned, if you look a parallel situation right now in the Gulf state allied by the United States. The other one, ma'am, is build up facilities, a new site for military logistic and operation. How it is connected to the so-called perception of confidence in the Philippine economy and the Philippines as an investment hub, quote-unquote. Ma'am, hindi mag-i-invest sa Pilipinas, aside from corruption, hindi mag-i-invest ang seryosong investor, especially foreign investors, sa Pilipinas kung nakikita nila that the Philippines is a frontline state ng United States.
It's vulnerable to military attack.
Vulnerable ka kasi ma'am. At ako, halimbawa, ma'am, ako ang investor, titignan ko, may corruption na nga kayo, red tape na nga kayo, mayroon pa frontline state pa kayo. So, baka naman magka-problema ako sa sa aking investment at business ko dyan. Kung dyan
And
ako
logistics.
And logistics, yes ma'am. So kung titignan mo ma'am, yung nangyayari sa Middle East should be an eye-opening sa mga Pilipino na kailangan natin maintindihan na yung in geopolitics, yung tinatawag mong EDCA sites, they should not cover it up na hindi yan EDCA sites, hindi yan US military bases. We have to see it for what it is. Kasi ma'am, may impact yan geopolitically speaking sa atin and at the same time economy-wise, especially when you talk about confidence in investing in the Philippines. On the other hand, ma'am, kahit balik-ta rin natin ang mundo, ma'am, given that EDCA sites are in the Philippines, ang tingin talaga sa Pilipinas ng lahat, China, Russia, all major powers, is like this. We are part of the so-called strategic and military architecture of the Philippines, of the United States globally. So, when you talk about this, it means the perceived adversary or quote-unquote adversaries of the United States, tinitignan din ang Pilipinas. Why? Maybe if there would be a spillover effect itong nangyayari sa Middle East, the United States may decide to use their bases in the Philippines
As a launching pad.
launching pad, refueling, operational interoperability or whatsoever. That is a possibility. Kasi ma'am ngayon, kung makikita mo, even in Japan, ang mga officials ng Japan, nagmi-meeting na sila and they're questioning already why the Japanese government is on the side of the United States saying they support the war in a war against Iran by the United States. So, may mga ganitong usapan na. And then, ito yung mga bagay na I think maintindihan ng Pilipino na kung saan itong BBM government, ma'am, is tinatry pa nilang i-smoke screen lahat. Na para bang sandali muna, hindi nyo naiintindihan ang impact nito sa Pilipinas, both geopolitical speaking and survival of our country and our people, and at the same time, the economic impact. So, ilagay po natin, dalawa ho yan. Ang impact ng Middle East crisis directly on the economy. That's painful. Kasi ma'am, kung titignan mo po, ang GDP growth po ng 2025 ng Pilipinas is 4.4. Hindi niya na-achieve ang kanyang goal na 6.5. That is a big blow to the BBM administration. Ang fourth quarter of 2025 is 3.0 lang ang GDP mo. That is way below the expectation. Now, pagdating naman ma'am, aside from the issue ng investment, marami kang issue din, ma'am, when you talk about unemployment, underemployment, inflation.
Unemployment,
So,
2.26 million.
yes, ma'am. So, pag samasamahin mo yan, plus
Inflation
the debt,
umakyat, kakaakyat lang yung bagong
Yung bagong
bagong
forecast,
rate.
ma'am. Oo, ma'am.
Inflation went up.
yes, ma'am. So, inflation went up already. Hindi pa nga tayo, ma'am, nasa ano pa lang tayo, ma'am? Nasa 4
Wala pa
days.
yung hindi pa nag-i-increase yung gasolina.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, nag-increase na daw. May
nag-increase na ba?
ma'am. Oo,
Yeah.
nag-increase na po. Oo, yan. Tapos, ma'am, take note, our national debt is 17.7 trillion and then 63.2% debt to GDP ratio, which is beyond the threshold already. Because in a country, pag lumampas ka ng 60% debt to GDP ratio, it's already a signal. Parang, ops, red light na yan, mag-ingat ka na. So, may ganun din. So, kung sumahin mo, ma'am, the Philippines really is in a very dire situation. At ano pa yan, ma'am, na compounded pa siya dahil biglang nagkaroon ka ng Middle East crisis. Ang tanong kasi dyan, ano ang mitigating plan ni BBM? What is that plan? May plano
Pinapahanda
ba?
daw niya, Ana, ang Armed Forces of the Philippines na pag may digmaan ay they can last for 20 to 30 days. Ewan ko kung anong klaseng reason that I suppose BBM expects a man-to-man war on land, but the war now, it's a missile attack.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't understand why the military had this is their frontline speech, di ba? Na we are ready for a war. No, we want to know what BBM has a plan. If he has a plan, na paano po tama economic mitigation dahil sa problemang nagdigmaang ito. Ang isa pang tinatanong, Ma'am Ana, is yung oil reserve daw ng Pilipinas, sabi ni BBM, ay good for 60 days. Anong masasabi nyo dyan?
Yun na nga, nagkakaano din kasi nung una kong nabasa, ma'am, sabi niya good for 60 days at yung iba naman na reports ang sinasabi good for 30 days. So sabi ko, ano ba talaga? Mayroon ba sila talagang figure na it's good for 30 days, 60 days? Pero to be very honest po, it doesn't really matter at the moment. Kasi, okay, you have oil reserve, but even then, the prices of oil will already go up. Yun yung immediate How you gonna buffer the rise oil prices?
At saan ka bibili? Ma'am Ana,
Yun din, ma'am.
saan siya bibili?
Mahirap yan, ma'am, kasi kung bibili ka with everything that is close in the Middle East right now, yung air mo...
O saan si BBM bibili ng oil?
Ang
ng
alternative lang
gasolina.
natin, ma'am, ang alternative natin, to be frank with you, kung may pera tayo, which is yun ang problema, is either you buy it from the United States, which is malayo, that would be costly, or you buy it from Africa, like for countries like Algeria and Nigeria. Ma'am, my God, ang layo nun.
Oo,
At saka ang
pero
problema
iikot
dyan,
sila.
ma'am, Iikot sila, ma'am.
Yes.
Ang problema dyan, ma'am, kasi iikot ka, may insurance yan, ibabayaran mo yan, may freight cost yan. So mataas pa rin. Ang
So
tanong,
China lang ang may supply kasi siya lang padadaanin sa Strait of Hormuz.
yes, and
Hindi
Russia.
naman bibili si BBM sa China.
Ayun ang problema niya kasi wala tayo, hindi maganda ang relationship natin with China at the moment. At saka, with the new announcement of the United States saying na they will deploy more mid-range missile system sa Pilipinas, that is a no-no to China. As far as China is concerned, they oppose this. They've been opposing, ma'am, yung Typhoon missile system deployed already in the northern Luzon. Kaya nagiinit ang ulo ng China dyan. Kasi malapit yan sa Taiwan.
Right.
And we know that Taiwan is the soft belly of, and actually there are two soft bellies, ma'am, ng China. That is the South China Sea, pero hindi pa ako nangangamba dyan masyado, ma'am. Though very critical yan, and it's a spot for any kind of military conflict. However, maraming players dyan, ma'am. Andyan naman yung Malaysia, andyan din yung Vietnam. So hindi ganoon ka. Kumbaga, to have a military escalation, medyo mas lower ang ang possibility. Ang mahirap, ma'am, itong Taiwan part, which is ang deployment, ma'am, ng mga assets ng Amerika is actually nandun sa area na yun kasi Batanes is not declared as an EDCA site, but actually if you really look at Batanes, ma'am, it is an EDCA site.
It's very near China.
Yeah, very near Taiwan.
Ah,
and also
Taiwan,
Taiwan po. So, ang Taiwan is part of China. So, in a way, ma'am, may ganun talaga na dynamic. So, kaya nga, maganda itong programa natin, ma'am, ngayong araw na to para maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan na ang problema ng Pilipinas dahil sa BBM government na yan is multi-level.
Yes.
Mayroon kang economic, mayroon kang international relation, you have a problem with your largest trading partner, which is China, both import and export, kasi sila talaga ang largest trading partner. Supposedly, China is one of our number 5, number 3 investors sa Pilipinas.
Investor confidence is very, very low because ang
Very
BBM
weak, ma'am.
administration massive corruption is very, very high. And
Yes.
our problem now is not just that we have a limited supply of oil and we will suffer from the increase in prices and our economy will suffer, but that BBM now, if it lasts more than 30 days, might not be able to buy oil nearby. So it's still going to cost the Philippines more.
It is still a problem, ma'am.
Right. I think, Ma'am Ana, we will have a part 2 ng
Yes,
episode na ito dahil hindi po ito matatapos sa isang upuan lamang. Kaya, Ma'am Ana, can we call you again maybe next week so we can have an update?
Yes, ma'am. Pag ikaw, ma'am, nag-request, always yes.